It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. Just acknowledge it, knowledge with no scholarships. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. Breaking everything down, tech to politics. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. We don't tell you what you want, we just give you what you need. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. News, brews, and views from these Chi-Town streets. Topic Thunder.
You heard the man, ladies and gentlemen. It's Topic Thunder, and you're joining us live here, simultaneously broadcasting from Chicago and the heart of Texas. Welcome. I'm Brooks. That's Ben, and welcome into the Thunderdome, as we like to call it. You may be joining us on YouTube or Twitch, Facebook, obviously, too. So welcome, and check us out on Instagram, too. I think we lost our Instagram person. I don't know what happened. Don't ask questions. We're in that don't ask questions mode.
They're with the team in Russia.
Okay, is that where they? Okay, are they caught?
Yeah, they went to help out and try to get our crew out of Russia.
They're trying to save Brittany.
I don't know why we sent our Instagram crew for that, but that's what we had to offer.
Logistics aren't necessarily our best.
Yeah.
So welcome in, of course, the world's most dangerous chat room. I think that's what we're just going to name that right now. The world's most dangerous chat room, which is half of the show, right?
Right there. Is that my
Yeah. For me, it's
this
way. Yeah. It's this way for me. Which it isn't because my camera's flipped, but that's just where the topsy-turvy world we're kind of in right now. Now, ain't that the truth, folks? So welcome in Topic Thunder number 65 by our weird calendar that seemingly doesn't have any rhyme or reason either. So welcome to welcome to some organized chaos, which of course we always start off with a really quick drink and having a beer, folks. Ooh, and this was a last minute Audible call, so I don't even have the website, but I know I've had beers from the fine people at Around the Ben before.
Oh, that's a really cool can, actually. That's as cool can as we've had in a while.
Yeah, that is Villainous. I gotta get it. The little mustache on the skull makes it. He's a villain, obviously, because that's just completely
Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Right, demonizing an entire mustache, which I guess history kind of bears up, but it's another discussion. Like nobody walks around with that, and that was okay. So before Hitler fucked that up, right? That was the Charlie Chaplin.
Yes. He ruined a facial hairstyle for everyone for the rest of time. Yeah. For the rest of time, that will never come back and be fashionable.
Yeah, ever, never, ever. That was it. That one man just ruined it. So I guess if you're gonna do horrible things, clean shaven.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be a horrible person, don't ruin it for the rest of us that can grow respectable facial hair.
Could you imagine if the full beard got the Hitler mustache treatment? I would be fucked.
I don't know what they call it. I guess the Fu Manchu, right? Like that really long. It's associated with the Hogan, Mongol, Chinese warlord kind of thing, like that. You don't see a lot of people running around with that anymore.
Long, right? But Hogan did the Fu Manchu,
Yeah, but I mean, that what you see in the Asian paintings and such of their feudal history, and you don't see that. Nobody has those, so maybe that. Yeah. So again, please, future reference. If you're going to do terrible things to good people, just clean shaven is the way to go.
Right. Adrian in the comments, the beard is half the reason she married me. So
I'd like to see that pie chart.
I shaved once in our now 8 years of being together, and I was told I could never do it again. And I agreed with her because I look horrible with no facial hair.
Did the shave too when the old that little bug came about, and I had to wear those special masks, right? And it was pretty much an agreed thing that once we're on the other side of this, you just
let's do that again.
Yeah. I guess I look young, but I don't look like me. That's just I rock the facial hair. It's just Ma Jordan in the and Amy Cleaver, everything. Like the gang's out here.
I can't even imagine not having facial hair. I've had it for so long.
Yeah. It's my blankie.
I do kind of want to just rock a mustache for a minute, but
I've been thinking it.
It's not 95% of the reason I have a beard is because I hate shaving.
I think it looks good. It feels good. Out here in the winter, it's a little bit easier on the face sometimes. Not necessarily that you have to worry about that down there, but again, it's a modern, sophisticated thing. As long as you
face scarf, a built-in face scarf.
Hashtag face scarf. Operation face scarf. That like. Okay, maybe I'm taking it one step too far. But I had an idea, folks. I had a really good idea, which was based off a previously really good idea. So I'm piggybacking, and I want to open headlines with this idea and get the community feedback about this.
The theme music. Let's just get to that.
Yeah, let's just get to the situation. We all know what's going on in Ukraine, and I'm certainly not going to spend. Everybody has a good idea what's going on, right? So I thought it would be nice if we selected a charity and kind of threw some of our coins in the direction of a really good charity, the World Central Kitchen. If you're not familiar with this is a world famous chef Jose Andres started this. During the 2010 Haiti earthquakes. He and his wife literally went out to Haiti and just started cooking with people and for people, and brought in supplies and brought in other chefs, and ended up feeding thousands of people, and started this charity where they, in any location in the world where there are disasters, if he can't get to it, because he's sometimes boots on the ground too. He was there in Haiti and these some other places. They organize other like-minded culinary artists, give them equipment, supplies, and they're in Ukraine right now. They are literally in Ukraine feeding people who are hiding out in train stations or in subways when they come out during the day, because they know they hopefully won't be shelled, and these people are risking life and limb to deliver not just like here's some American burgers, but they actually they source local, and they try to cook comfort foods for the people that are afflicted in that particular area. So cool. It's super cool. Chef Andres has a story about how he thought he knew how to cook black beans, but he learned that he got schooled in Haiti on how to cook black beans. And you might think like, oh, wait, you're a world-renowned chef, you don't know how to cook. Look, he went to the people, right? They'll always know better there. So we are going to post a website on just about all of our social media after the show here. But if you go to wck.org, the top right has a donate button, and you can give crypto, you can give stocks, PayPal. There's other ways to give. So again, I don't know that we necessarily have a wealthy benefactor in this situation, but I think a running tally it should be in order. So if there's a way to mention Topic Thunder, not that we want to draw that kind of attention to ourselves, but to let them know that there's some organization out there called Topic Thunder. How cool is that? Yeah, we got $170 from some Topic Thunder,
some assholes on fucking YouTube,
and we're happy to be those assholes. And then if it means providing $170 worth of food and equipment to people that are in a really, really terrible spot doing heroic things, even if it is just cooking a meal. So again, wck.org. Check them out. Jose Andres is a hero among men. It's a story worth checking out. And then again, if you shoot Ben, shoot somebody here involved in the show an email or a message, just letting us know how much you contributed with the receipts, and maybe we can find somebody that might be willing to match it. Maybe there's somebody lurking in the building here that might be. I don't know. We'll see. But there's other things going on, obviously, in Ukraine right now. one of the more interesting things that I've found in this entire thing is what's the average Russian seeing on their television. Turns out it's a completely different story.
Of course. Wouldn't you
And
expect anything else?
it's look, this may upset people, this may make people laugh, this may befuddle folks, but it to me it struck every emotion that the QAnon thing hit.
Okay.
Like, how could you wait? What? So let's just go over what Good Morning. By the way, this is a story from the BBC, the good people there. Good Morning, the Channel One, which is a state-controlled TV station in Russia. One of Good Morning, one of Russia's most popular channels, is to the casual observer not unlike the breakfast broadcasting found in many other countries of news, culture, and light entertainment. On Tuesday, the normal running order was interrupted 5:30 Moscow time. The presenters announced that the TV schedules have changed due to, quote, well-known events, end quote, and there will be more news and current affairs. The news bulletin suggests that reports about Ukrainian forces destroying Russian military hardware are false and designed to, quote, mislead inexperienced viewers, end quote. Quote, footage continues to be circulated on the internet, which cannot be described as anything but fake. The presenter described the viewers shown photographs of what is described as unsophisticated virtual manipulations when they're showing pictures of destroyed Russian equipment. That was just one channel, right?
By the way,
Later,
I really quick, I want to point out, Hayden, I agree with you. I don't know if this was where, but when I was in high school, which is much after Hayden was in high school, Channel One was the school news network. Not Tucker Carlson, the other one, Anderson Cooper, started on Channel One.
Samesies. We had Channel One. In fact, I'm a little bit older than you, Ben. I was the generation where, hey, we're gonna put this TV in your room permanently. Wait, what? We used to some schleb had to go to the AV room to go get the cart that the TV, because we rented it for the period. Like, we're gonna put a TV in every room. What? We're swimming in money. Yay, suburban white life. Woo! But we had Channel One, right? Yeah. Good catch by the world's most dangerous chat room.
Yes.
So on a separate state control, well, not even state controlled. It's a subsidiary of Gazprom, which Gazprom is like the nationally owned gas and oil production company. Yes, that's state controlled. They have their own TV channel. It's called N as in national TV. It concentrates most exclusively on events in Donbass, the region in East Ukraine, where on 24 February, Russia stated it was beginning its special military operation to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. There's no mention of reports of ominous miles-long military convoy snaking its way from Belarus into northern Ukraine of Kyiv, in which UK and BBC radio all updated people in Russia. They have no idea. We start with the latest news from Donbass. This is what the headline or the presenter on this NTV said. We start with the latest news from Donbass. NLR, Luhansk People's Republic. Fighters continue their offensive, having traveled 3 kilometers, while DNR units have traveled 16 kilometers. They're referring to the Moscow-backed rebels who have been in since control of Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics since Russia's intervention in East Ukraine 8 years ago. On Royosa and Channel One, 2 of Russia's most popular channels. Like, it got a lot of choices. Both state-controlled. Ukrainian forces are accused of war crimes in Donbass. The threat to civilians in Ukraine comes not from Russian forces, but from, quote, Ukrainian nationalists. They use civilians as human shields, deliberately positioning strike systems in residential areas and stepping up the shelling of cities in Donbass. What the Russians are telling their own people is the absolute opposite of what is going on, and they're being arrested and threatened with up to 15 years in prison if you state otherwise. Now, that's not a joke. That law was passed almost unanimously by the Duma, their congressional body.
So, uh, again, I mentioned last week I lurk in some communist corners of Facebook and social media, and maybe they're just buying the bullshit. But from what I understand, this Donbas area, particularly, for about 14 years now, there has been this kind of ongoing thing where it is you could see it from the other side that there is some propaganda on both sides. The Ukrainian side of it, they absolutely did support and arm, from what I understand, legitimate Nazis in Donbas. The Ukrainian side. That's where this whole Nazi thing comes from. There is a political group that are, for all intents and purposes, Nazis. And from the Russian side, the Ukrainian government was helping these people because they oppose Russia, they oppose communism, right? Nazis oppose communism. So that is, and from what there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that. There in Donbas, there are a lot of people that agree with the Russian side, and I know that you said there is some infiltration. However, there is enough of sentiment where the people in Donbas there is a large segment of the people in Donbas that feel like they are being treated poorly because they support Russia, right? And so so from Russia's perspective, they're doing a peacekeeping mission, trying to help these people that just think differently and feel differently that are being attacked from the other side.
Right, but they're crossing international law. I didn't know that, so I am legitimately interested. And I see Amy Cleaver was again, let me explain the nickname. Like, so Gigi's handle is "Am I Ever Clever?" Right?
Right.
It's fun, right? And I guess some dope, I don't know, asked her once, like, saw it, didn't really read it, and just said, "Are you Amy Cleaver?" So it's the running joke that her reporter name is "I'm Amy Cleaver."
I love that. That's so great.
Right.
Yes, there are people fighting in Ukraine that have far right white supremacist support. I mentioned it last week. There are a ton of reports where minority refugees were not being allowed to get on buses to leave the Ukraine and leave Donbas. There is some underlying things where it is easy to overlook because Russia is doing some shitty things too. But it's not like one side is like, oh, we're poor innocent Ukraine and we don't have any problems and we're just being invaded. There are some things where you're just like, let's not get too involved with these guys because you may end up on the other side, on the wrong side somehow, because there's some shady shit going on the Ukrainian side too.
I wouldn't doubt it, and I definitely, me, I will definitely look into this for sure, because I'd like to know more about it and some of the context behind it and how long that's been going on, because that I'll be the first to admit, like, in that area of the world,
every story, and
right,
it's easy to say that Russia is just straight lying, but there is some truth sprinkled into those lies that allows people that support them to go, well, see, there is this, that, the Nazi thing is a big one. Like, that group that the Ukrainian government is supporting and has supported, that is a huge, that's a huge propaganda point for the other side, where they're like, we're fighting literal Nazis. That's why they're so passionate on the other side, because they feel like they're fighting against legitimate Nazis and people that support legitimate Nazis.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm definitely going to take a look at it. But
moving along.
No, I mean, which is interesting because, like, you say you're fighting Nazis, and that's great. And what we don't know is really how much Vladimir Putin's worth, right?
Right.
Nobody really does.
Last week in the big, we were really speculating.
there was an article in Fortune magazine that was asking some really interesting questions. And there's the headline. Putin claims he makes $140,000 a year and has an 800 square foot apartment.
How does he say that without just breaking out in belly laughter?
So the article did some really interesting stuff, including looking at pictures of him and zooming in, particularly interested in his apparently extravagant watch collection. He has been photographed, and I might butcher these names, but hang on, wearing a Patek Philippe's perpetual calendar watch, which is worth $60,000.
Whoa.
He allegedly has been pictured with a $500,000 A-Lang sewn tubograph, which that's a watch. Because I had to look that up, it's a watch. It's
Dude,
500 grand.
This is kind of off topic, but still on topic. Like people that are like really into watches, there's something weird about that. It's like you're either really, really rich and you want to flaunt that, or you want to be accepted by those really, really rich people. So you buy expensive watches so that when you're around them, they go, oh, you can afford that expensive watch too. Oh, you're into watches too. And you have a common point. And it's so people that are really into watches, you're weird. For some, on some level, I don't get it. It's a piece of jewelry, ultimately.
It actually, it's just it's a device.
$500,000 for a watch? What?
It tells the time.
My fucking phone tells the time. It makes watches irrelevant now.
I have a smartwatch. It tells me a lot of things.
Right.
I actually looked this watch up.
My heart fucking monitored by my watch if I wanted to.
Yeah, right.
Why would I want a fucking 500,000 one?
It's
so I can
funny
scratch and be pissed off that I fucking scratched a $500,000 watch.
Actually, really cool scene in the first Doctor Strange movie is when he's picking a watch for his evening, and he has that cool display case where they're all like that. That's kind of cool, I guess. If you're like,
again, if you're flaunting your wealth, go for it. It's
right,
the other people that are doing it for those other weird reasons.
And so on $140,000 a year, right, which is fairly modest.
Mm-hmm.
He also allegedly owns a 190,000 square foot mansion. 190,000 square foot mansion. And I think we actually did this story before, but it's worth repeating. This mansion, this entire estate, boasting frescoed ceilings, a marble swimming pool lined with statues of Greek gods, a 27,000 square foot guest house. 27,000 square foot guest house, spas, musical parlor, dressing rooms for all his staff, an amphitheater, state-of-the-art ice hockey rink.
Because he's so good at hockey. That's how he got so good at hockey, Brooks. God damn it.
All that time practicing. A Vegas-style casino, a nightclub equipped with stripper poles.
Why not?
Bar room showcasing more than $100,000 of wine and spirits, an underground tasting room overlooking the water of the Black Sea, and much more. $500,000 Louis Vuitton sofas. Again, $140,000. He lives in an 800 square foot apartment, which was the size of apartment C.
Who's paying for all this stuff? Is all of this gifted to him because he's the czar? I mean, like, this is a flaunting in a way that is just brazen, is the best way to put it. It is a brazen flaunting of, oh, I only get paid $180,000 a year. No, you don't. You have a fucking Vegas-style casino and a house inside a house. Fuck off. How did you can't do that on $180,000 a year?
So I'm glad you asked that question, Ben, because the article brings it all into focus here and actually mentions a man that we've talked about on this show before. the headline or the article title, segment title is $200 billion blackmail. The $200 billion figure was estimated by financier, and his total net worth, what we're talking about, 200 billion, was estimated by financier Bill Browder, who, in testimony to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee in 2017, said that Putin amassed most of his wealth after a Moscow court jailed oligarch Mikhail Khodorkovsky in 2003 for fraud and tax evasion. After the conviction, the other oligarchs went to Putin and asked him what they needed to do to avoid sitting in the same cage as Kolodarsky. From what it followed, it appeared that Putin's answer was half.
Whoa.
He wasn't saying 50% for the Russian government or the presidential administration of Russia, but 50% for Vladimir Putin personally.
I mean, straight up corruption. That is corruption at its most obvious.
He is a big fan of the Dark Knight. All right, how much you want to get rid of the Batman? And Joker Stone Cold is probably the most serious he was in an entire movie. He said half.
Right.
And he was like, Putin saw it.
Long table. You can imagine the meeting. Like if they make a movie, it was at that really fucking long table, and he's sitting there, and they all are scared to death on the other end, right? Like, what we just saw that guy go to prison. We can't go there too. What do we got to do? We'll do anything, Vladimir. Anything. And he just sits back, right, arms crossed, strokes his chin in thought. He just leans forward and he's half. I want half.
And he knew what his answer was going to be, and he knew what these guys were going to do, right? He's a KGB guy. He's skilled in like doing one thing to get another reaction from other people, right? He knew what he was
totally
doing.
Jailed that motherfucker to get those guys to fucking extort him, or not extort him, but to give him a bribe. Yeah.
And so, of course, this is the last part of the article. Let me quote the article. But of course, Vladimir denies all of these allegations, only admitting to a different form of riches. This is a quote from President Putin himself. I am the wealthiest man, not just in Europe, but the whole world. I collect emotions.
Ooh.
I am wealthy, and that the people of Russia have twice entrusted me with the leadership of a great nation such as Russia. I believe that is my greatest wealth.
Shut up. Come on.
He told you the truth twice in a way that, like, again, understand what this guy did. And we talked last week about one of his first quotes after winning the presidential election, right? He's like, he just found that like the first part of a mission was successful by former KGB agents. And he was referring to himself becoming president.
Right. Yeah.
Here he is. He's referring to himself again. The wealthiest man, he's telling you in no uncertain terms, I'm the wealthiest man, not just in Europe, but in the whole world. End of statement.
Right.
That's it. That's
the end of that is to mask what he's really saying. Yes. He's couching it in this, I am the wealthiest man in emotions. Like, come on. If he said that in front of you, your eyes would instantly roll naturally. Like, you can't help but roll your eyes at that fucking that line, right? When he ends it with, I collect emotions. Shut up. You're lying to me, and I know you're lying to me.
Try to make it feel better, right? It's like when you kind of slap your significant other's tuchus a little too hard. You're like, oh, that was rough, and you kind of rub it to kind of that'll make it feel better. That's what that is. Like, that'll make it feel better.
Yeah.
So
fuck this guy's a fucking real life supervillain.
And we've got our own, right? So let's bring the focus back home and talk about something we don't call our billionaires here, but let's call them what they are, especially in this situation. Let's bring the focus back to our own oligarch problem, right? Because we've got them. We've talked about Mr. Jeff Bezos quite a bit sometimes on this show, and wow, look at this! Like we didn't need confirmation, but here's confirmation from NBC News. Amazon suppliers linked to forced labor in China, Watchdog Group says. Again, no duh, but the company supplier list includes firms accused of using Uyghur laborers. Now, we know this because everybody in the world's most dangerous chat room and watching on the various social media platforms pretty savvy, right?
Right.
You've been listening to the show, you guys get it. Here's the mainstream people kind of getting something from NBC News, respected institution, saying, "Yeah, they're torturing those people. They're killing them. They're slave wages, working them until they die in the plants. It's basically this work till you die genocide plan." And we should probably take some sort of look if we're getting sanction happy here, right? Maybe Mr. Bezos needs to consider his ethical dilemma before him, right? Can we start bringing some of that back here and focusing on some of the oligarch problems here? Because I know like it's a very interesting time. Some stories slip under the radar, but
Yeah, but this is definitely one where like, and this is a good time to kind of preview. Like this week, I'm debuting a new segment in place of the big. I've got a segment where I'm going to focus on a particular topic. I'm calling it Down the Rabbit Hole. And we're going to go down the rabbit hole of the Great Reset. And it talks about something similar to this in that there's got to be a different way of doing things economically. We have to take a different look at how we're doing things economically. And one of the big things that we have to take a look at is the idea of going overseas for labor because it's cheaper. That's a if you're just looking to maximize profits, that's what you do. But is that what's best for the world? Because we've got forced labor, we got slave labor going on in China, so that they can meet the demands that are given of them of American corporations who are wanting their manufacturing done in China, where it's done much cheaper than it can be done here. And we have to start rethinking, because shit gets out of control like this, and corporations are almost forced in this quest to maximize profits at all costs to make decisions where they go into business with companies that are using forced labor. It's capitalism is the way it's running now. We're watching. It's sometimes referred to as late stage capitalism, and we are in the late stages. I mean, remember, guys, this is an experiment that didn't exist until after the monarchies basically ended. Capitalism is what kind of replaced monarchies, and that's not that long ago. So we don't really know how this is all going to play out, but people like Karl Marx had a lot of predictions about how it was going to play out, and it turns out if you read Karl Marx and what he predicted back in I think it was 1800s, if not 16 earlier than that, everything a lot of things, I won't say everything, a lot of things that he predicted are playing out in real time now. So this is just an example of why we've got to change how we look at the economy and how we look at business and how it interacts with society.
And I don't think there's anybody listening to the show or outside of the Thunderdome itself that would sit there and argue with the idea like that going to work sucks, and having to do something and spend your life doing something that you might not necessarily love, but you need to pull in a wage. You need to be able to live a life and feed a family if you got one, all that kind of good stuff. There are other things that could be done, especially when you reconsider what the concept of money is, and the idea of distributing wealth and resources evenly across the board. You might just find out like that a pathway to that might probably solve some of the ills of today's society.
Well, we're in the when we go down the rabbit hole in just a few minutes, we're going to talk about a different style of capitalism that I had never encountered before, that I think is very interesting. So,
I can't wait. I don't know anything about it, and I love the idea of. And obviously, you told me you had an idea, and that was great. So I'm excited. So let's actually, this story, Ben, was brought to us by none other than our belated birthday gentleman, contributor to the show, longtime listener, Mr. Ryan Hansen had a birthday the other day.
Oh, happy birthday, sir. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Ryan. And he sent us this story. And, I'm kind of a geek for radiology stuff. So this is right up my alley, and I hope it's up yours too. They've done the first scan of a dying brain and revealed what happens at that moment of death.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes death freaks people out, right?
Freaks me the fuck out. It really does. Like, I'm gonna probably have like a little mini panic attack, but I'll try to hide it as best I can.
Okay, just breathe in through the nose, out the mouth. That's like meditation, which we're going to bring up in just a second. Neuroscientists have recorded the activity of a dying human brain and discovered the rhythmic brainwave patterns around the time of death that are similar to those occurring during dreaming, memory recall, and meditation. Now, a study published to Frontiers brings new insight into a possible organizational role of the brain during death and suggests an explanation for the vivid life recall in near-death experiences. They're taking MRIs. They measured brainwave activity through what they call electroencephalograms. And let me try that again. Electroencephalograms. So EEG. So they're literally measuring they put all these little sensors on your head. The electrical brainwave activity. They're literally measuring the oscillations. Here it is. Just before and after the heart stopped working, we saw changes in a specific band of neural oscillations, so-called gamma oscillations, but also in such areas as delta, theta, alpha, and beta oscillations. Now, well, what does it all mean? Though generating oscillations involved in memory retrieval, the brain may be playing a last recall of important life events just before we die, similar to the ones reported in NDEs or near-death experiences. These findings challenge our understanding of when exactly life ends and generate important subsequent questions, such as those related to the timing of organ donation. It's fascinating that we experience something like this and that our brain doesn't just like power down. There's this flurry of activity that apparently occurs. And then it kind of stops. But what I found, like the organ donation thing I thought was really interesting, because they have very specific rules about when and how, and that they can take those life-saving organs from somebody who's already passed and give them to somebody else. And it is Billy Wax in the world's most dangerous chat room, which we're just calling that today. That's what we're calling it now. That man. Hi, welcome. But yeah, I think it's fascinating what happens when this physical thing ceases to be. And kind of leads to an idea that there may be something, or maybe not. Is that what freaks you out? What freaks you out about death?
What freaks? Man, I can't even really describe it. Just the finality of it, like the inevitability of it, right? Like no matter what I do, it's going to happen. I can't fight it, right? There's nothing that I can do now in my life that is going to possibly keep me from dying, right? And then that weirdness of like, I'm 41 now, so like this is the second half, right?
The back nine.
We're in the second half, and it's like, okay, at any time in the second half, it could be. And like before, when I heard about people's deaths, when people had a heart attack or just died suddenly, it never registered with me. It never affected me. But in the last few years, it's people that are getting closer to my age, right? It's fuck, like that could be me. And then your brain then you start thinking about like, what happens to my family? I had a son at a later age than a lot of other people, right? So I won't get to see as much of my son's life as if I had him 20 years ago, right? Okay. So like all of that shit plays in my head, and
fair,
and and it freaks me out, and I have to get my brain thinking about something, and it typically happens to me right before I fall asleep.
Oh, of course. Oh, of course. Oh, yeah.
And that's when it usually will hit me. The last time it hit me real hard when weirdly was for our wrestling show that I do with Nick and Mike. We watch an old wrestling pay-per-view, right? And the pay-per-view was from 2000, and I was like, holy shit, that's 21 years ago. That's half of my life ago, and it doesn't seem that far ago. And that triggered me to start going down the rabbit hole of holy shit, what's, and I started, I started freaking out. It's weird.
All right. Okay. I don't have those particular freakouts about that. There's plenty of other things that I've got hangups and reservations about in my life. That one I just kind of like, yeah. Do I ever think like, oh God, like I'm 45, like,
yeah.
no, shit, okay. But then it's like, okay.
Yeah, on. I don't let them.
The family thing. The family thing. I don't have. I mean, not like you do. I don't have children, so I don't have those concerns. Maybe that plays into it. I got to worry about, I got to worry about a dog and
It started really getting once my son was born. It started that if I could trace it back, was when it was like when it started to become real. Most of the rest remember that. Well, that too. Yes, there was a high likelihood that it was a WCW pay-per-view, so very likely.
And I didn't know if you were watching like the first thing when you started mentioning the pay-per-view, the first thing I thought was Owen Hart. So like, yeah, like wow, you picked that one to watch.
No, but watching those, man, there's a lot of dead dudes on there, obviously.
Yeah, and nobody should die in their sleep. It's not fair. It's not fair to like know what got you, I guess. Like, I don't know. I just want to know, like, what it was going to be. Like, I want to see the bus coming. I want to see the guy put the gun to my head. I want to know if it's a heart attack. I want to feel my left arm go numb. I want to do the grab. If the plane's going down, I just want to know.
I feel the exact opposite. I would rather not go through all that. Just let it happen.
Okay, maybe I'm weird, but I
think that's more likely that I'm weird. So.
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm on the other side. I think more people have like your opinion of it, that it's just like the finality of it, the unknown of it. Like I'm like, I've had some transcendental experiences in my life that like have given me a hinted enough that like there's maybe not the same thing in the next spot, but hey,
I am hopeful that science and technology and health, and health related things will get us to a point where in my lifetime, I might have a chance to see like 125. Like I think there's a possibility that human beings could live to 125 years old.
Let's qualify it by saying, let's make that a good 125.
Right. Like you're still living. You're still able to live life. You're not invalid in a fucking hospital bed for 10 years or some shit. Yeah.
You remember when Grandpa used to get around when he was 95? Yeah, look at him now, 110. He really is like, that's not living, right? But if you're that, you're able to come up with a chemical cocktail, a hormone cocktail that like keeps me going and keeps the muscles young and the bones strong. Like, yep.
I go to a clinic and get a shot once a month or some shit. Yeah, I'm in.
I got the money for that.
I'm in. Yep.
Yeah, that'll be the next Topic Thunder donation. Oh yeah, yeah. So let's not divert too far away from home. Within the cover of all this silliness and the horror in Ukraine, did you hear this one, Ben? Did you know that 2 members of Congress spoke at a white nationalist convention?
That does not surprise me. But if I had to guess, they were both Republican.
Oh, that's not even fair. That's not fair. The fair question.
Look at that. Like, I swear to God, I just opened this like 2 seconds before we went on the air. And if you'd have let me guess who one of them was, I absolutely would have picked Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is a straight up white nationalist, unabashed, doesn't give a shit that she's like Putin in a way. She doesn't give a shit that that she's fucking terrible. she's just going to still continue to be terrible.
Keep scrolling to see that wonderful picture of her right next to Nick Fuentes. And if you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, uh, just dip your toes into that pond and then get out really quick, because I don't think you'll need too much more time in that kind of cesspool. But he is the worst of the worst.
Well, it says here he's gained infamy for making anti-Semitic comments, denying the Holocaust happened, and opposing women's right to vote. Sounds like
he was
real winner.
He was in Charlottesville. He was on the ground marching, dressed like a brown, in Charlottesville, North Carolina, during that Nazi rally.
He will not replace us. That is a straight up white nationalist fucking phrase. Yep.
And dentist turned congressman, which I guess you do one of two things.
Come on, look at this. Despite speaking and posing for pictures with Fuentes, Green initially claims that she does not know him.
Yeah.
Never heard him speak and was unfamiliar with his views. Why, as a public official, are you taking pictures with anybody that you don't know exactly who they are for exactly this reason? Maybe you didn't know, but you should have fucking known.
You shook his hand. You're shaking his hand. How much more of an endorsement could you give to somebody than to being in public and shaking somebody's hand? There is no bigger political endorsement than that. Maybe the bro fist, or maybe a hug, but like that is the time-honored tradition of a handshake. We get along deal like that. And Paul Gosar, that's another kind of a piece of crap guy. He's the one that, if you'll recall, floated the idea of pardons to some of the January 6th participants. Yeah. And like left them high and dry, and they were like, "But they told us they'd pardon us." Blah blah blah. And he's like, I guess if you're a dentist, you can't get away from politics. And I'm looking at you, Isaac Yankum.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. Hopefully, he doesn't get much farther than mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee.
That guy's batshit crazy.
Yeah, he's like the wrong kind of libertarian. He says he's libertarian, but he doesn't really understand what that means. And what his version of libertarianism is like basically republicanism and conservatism. So yeah, but he says it under this veil of I'm a libertarian, and it's bullshit.
It's hilarious because, again, my personal motto about libertarians: I've never met a libertarian that made their life and their living as a libertarian.
No, it's not a sustainable way of living.
They make their money as a capital. They make their money with the system, as a part of the system, and then they make their money and they're like, well, I don't want to share it with anybody else. Now I'm a libertarian. Everybody should fend for themselves. I did it. No, you did it because you did it. Yeah.
Because you realize quickly that the government and the collective community play a huge part in your day-to-day life being as simple as it is. To be a libertarian is ultimately to be a hunter-gatherer.
And always watch your back. Too, it has to be the most exhausting way to live your life if you're truly want to be out there like living that life. That
is also a place where people that think that pedophilia shouldn't be okay, they also tend to become libertarian. It happens an awful lot that libertarians, people that identify as libertarians, one of their things is there should be no age of consent. We're all free. We're all humans. It's weird, man. It's a weird place where they allow weird thoughts to just kind of germinate because, well, we can't interfere in other people's business. And it's like, really?
Yeah. And I actually, the former friend, who's a staunch libertarian, defended things that the profits over people idea of corporations, and that when pressed about, well, what would you do then? Honestly, please tell me, if there wasn't a centralized form of governance and a centralized tax base, what would you do for schools? Well, we already homeschool. Okay, fair enough. Good answer. Dumb question, because I should have known that was coming. Right? But I certainly followed up with like fire, ambulance services, policing, streets and sand, garbage. Like what? Well, the community would take care of that. Well, how?
Why and why?
Well, every time, every answer I asked them, well, how? Well, the community would get what I distilled out of that. Well, the community would take care of it. What you're telling me is that they would form a fucking government
Right, they would form a coalition of citizens
that would
who would help take
stuff.
care of the big things of the society. Right? Yeah, it's fucking dumb. Libertarians ultimately just don't want to pay taxes. That's it. They just don't want to pay taxes. That's when you boil it all down. That's it. They want to be able to. They don't want the government telling them what to do, and they don't want to pay taxes. They don't think about it past that. People that identify as libertarian don't think about it past that. Again, I've mentioned it before, but Adrian and I, we just finished it listening to an audiobook where there was a town in Massachusetts that was run by libertarians, and what they ran into is a giant problem with bears because they're in the area of the country where it's forest and black bears and bears live there. But if you don't have government officials doing something about keeping the bears out of town, guess what? The bears take over the town, and you can't do anything if a bear decides it wants your garbage. If it decides it wants to enter your house, you can't do anything about it. And it's like that's what happened in this case. It's a disaster when you get past that. I don't want to be told what to do, and I don't want to pay taxes. Past that, a libertarian has no fucking idea how they're going to live their life.
And it's not a very good political platform because guess what? Nobody wants to be told what to do, and nobody wants to pay taxes. So congratulations, you've got everybody. We're all libertarians now. Right. How do we figure the rest of this shit out?
Taxes are the price we pay to live in an organized society that has a community that has each other's interests ultimately at heart. Education, healthcare, medical care, things that defending your house and your home and your property. The best part about libertarians is they don't want the government involved unless it's to protect their property. That's when they want the government to be involved. And whenever I hear that, my thing is what makes it your property? Who deemed it? Under whose authority is it your property? The banks, right? The bank that you
and the government.
Yeah, and the government who says, yes, we will recognize this as your plot of land that you own. But ultimately, you don't have fucking ownership of land. That is a bizarre idea to begin with. It's never something I've never understood. Like, wait a minute. You own, here in Texas, you own the mineral rights, right? Like, how the fuck do you own what's in the ground under this plot of land that you purchased, or if it's even worse, is if it's family land passed down that you settled there. Your family settled on this land and decided this is mine, and it's like, what? Under what authority? Oh, a government's authority. So you do want the government law. You just don't want the government telling you what to do. You just want the government to defend your property.
And let's be honest, you don't want to pay welfare for those people. And we all know who those people are. We all know people that subscribe to this ideology and can read between those lines, right? Well, we advocate a different trajectory for government spending on this show. Like, what are we spending our tax dollars on? It would be the question. Like, we should pay some taxes because I want roads. You want roads? I want roads. I want to be able to turn my faucet on and there's water. But because there's.
Would you like there to be, if your house were to catch fire, would you like there to be a number that you could call and services would come free of charge to help you put out that fire? You'd probably want that, right?
The community will take care of it. They'll come with buckets.
No. You can't. There's some things that can't be privatized, right? That's what like early communities and societies realized very quickly, is that there are some things that cannot be privatized. You cannot privatize police and fire. because you can imagine how that plays out. Oh my God, my house is on fire. Let me pick up the phone. Ring, ring. Hello, Joe's fire department. Yes, hi, my house is on fire. Please come help put it out. Okay, yes, thank you. But what we're going to need to do first is we're going to need to get a $750 security deposit over the phone by card only.
Yeah, debit. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, have those funds in our account before we can actually send anyone out.
Verified funds.
Like, what the fuck? Like, please just come. My house is burning. My whole life is burning. Please come help me. Oh yeah, but I don't have $750. Oh, sorry, sir. We're not gonna be able to help you. Click.
My grandma's in there.
Sorry.
Well, we'll get to it. We have higher priority clients.
Yeah.
We have to get to, and we'll get to you when we can.
Right, exactly. What happens in a libertarian society is the people with wealth get everything, and the people that don't have wealth get nothing.
Get everything taken away too. Whatever they do have ends up. We're probably. It's just not a sustainable ideology in my point of view, because again, you didn't make it as a libertarian. You didn't make your wealth and fortune as a libertarian. You made it another way, and then switched gears once you made it because you wanted to keep it from other people, which is yeah, again, you're going to die. We've covered that. You're going to die. This is well established on the show. We recognize death here on the program. What are you going to do with that? Again, congrats, but pass it to your kids, right? Before we get to Ben's new segment, Down the Rabbit Hole, I wanted to show, there's one video, is that last link that I sent you, Ben. We're going to skip a whole bunch because we've been conversing here on the show. And I want to show you part of what's going on. Maybe the libertarians can take some inspiration from what the people in Ukraine are doing to protect and fight against what are being called the occupiers or the oppressors. This is camera footage from inside a car, and we'll definitely maybe watch it once or twice. But
давай, блядь, хуярим нахуй. Кидай, блядь, кидай, блядь, Антон!
What is that?
Let's go back and watch it again.
Хуярим нахуй. Кидай, блядь, блядь, Антон!
Did they throw a Molotov cocktail?
Yes.
Okay.
Multiple. So apparently there was two people throwing. There's one in the back seat on the passenger side.
Somebody sucked at throwing it because there was definitely fire inside the car, and I think that somebody may have not thrown it as well as they hoped, because definitely get kind of backfired. But yes, that's fucking awesome.
Give them a break because they're driving next to a live like armed tank and like Russian troops that are ready to pull the
Molotov cocktail
and throwing Molotov cocktails at Russian armor.
That's fun.
Armored fucking tanks, man. It is badass. And again, WCK.org, the World Central Kitchen. We're tracking some donations. I'll be posting up my donation amount just to kind of get things rolling here. But we're gonna track that, and
as soon as we're off the air, I'll handle that myself.
Yep. And Ben, I'm the floor
I don't
is yours.
have any music for it yet. I was trying to find some music. I was a little time crunched, so I don't have any fancy music for it yet. But there was you know me. If you know me, I love a good conspiracy. Right. Whether it's JFK, 9/11, the moon landing, whatever. I love them all. And I look at them all. I don't believe in them all. Epstein didn't kill himself, all that shit. Right. There's one that I've heard of, but I didn't really pay much attention to. And it's something called the Great Reset. Is this something that you're familiar with? Have you heard this phrase bandied about maybe in some circles, Brooks? Is this something that you're familiar with?
I've heard of the Great Reset, but I have no idea what it is.
Exactly what it is, right? And so it's kind of been what I've found is it's kind of been bastardized, like a lot of things, right? And some elements of both the far right and the far left have taken liberties, for lack of a better term, with an idea that at its core of what it actually is, I actually found that I was actually intrigued by it and kind of somewhat support it. And if you another thing, if you know about me, is that I am no fan of capitalism, and the idea of working inside capitalism and trying to change it. I've always like democratic socialism, right? You've heard of that before, Bernie Sanders and whatnot. And it was always this idea of socialism within the confines of capitalism. And for me, that never seemed to work because there was no accountability. There was no way for the citizens to be able to hold the government accountable, and the government to be able to hold the citizens accountable in an equitable way. And for me, I am a socialist. If I were to look at all of the different economic models, socialism makes the most sense to me, and it has actually never been put into practice by a country or a society. People say that associate communism with socialism, not the same thing. Communism kind of comes from the idea of socialism, but it's taken on it kind of takes a left-hand turn and becomes more authoritarian than what socialism is. Socialism at its core is ultimately that the labor owns the means of production and distribution. What it ultimately means is there is no boss, there is no owner of the business. The workers are collectively the owners of the business, and if you work there, you are an owner of the business. You own a piece of it. So when the profits are split up, they're split up amongst all of the owners, all equally, or maybe not necessarily equally, but within a scale,
a tiered system,
right? Based on what your job is, but
sure.
as equitable as possible. Not a large gap like we see with an owner system, a capitalist system.
Okay.
So to me, that makes the most sense. Like people work better when they feel like they have an ownership in the company, right? Like you're more passionate about your work if you feel like you're going to get out what you're putting in, right? And that sentiment that makes sense to me. So, but there's going down the rabbit hole here. I found a new model that I think kind of help overcome some of my concerns, and we'll get into that here in a second. So I want to backtrack and start at what is the Great Reset? What really is it? And it is something that has been brought about by the World Economic Forum, the WEF. The World Economic Forum is an international organization that brings together political and business leaders each year to discuss major issues. And it's best known for its World Economic Forum that happens in Davos. Okay. You've heard, right? The meetings in Davos and huge players. The biggest capitalists in the world show up to this World Economic Forum in Davos, this meeting, right? And so it's interesting that a bunch of capitalists are at the root of this, because the conspiracy is this is a plan for the world elite to reset societies. COVID has presented an opportunity for society and economics to reset itself, right? And that is what the World Economic Forum is proposing, that this is an opportunity. The conspiracy is that the world elite, the Illuminati, if you will, the dark elements of the world are basically allowed COVID to spread in order to enact this plan where it becomes a more communist sort of a change in the economy, when it's really not that, because it's capitalists are at the heart of this idea of, hey, we need a reset of how we look at things and how we do business. Some of the biggest capitalists in the world are.
So what is the idea of the Great Reset?
Right. So great question. So what I want to do is actually let them tell you for themselves. They put together a video. It's a minute and 56-second video. They can explain it better than I, right? So I have it pulled up right here on YouTube, and I want to play it for now.
Great.
We have an incredible opportunity to create entirely new sustainable industries. investing in nature as the true engine of our economy.
The current global crisis has disrupted every aspect of our lives, but it has also presented us with an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to reset and accelerate efforts to improve the state of our world.
Changing our current trajectory will require bold and imaginative action, together with determination and decisive leadership. In order to secure our future and to prosper, we need to evolve our economic model, putting people and planet at the heart of global value creation. If there is one critical lesson we have to learn from this crisis, we need to put nature at the heart of how we operate. We are on the verge of catalytic breakthroughs that will alter our view of what is possible and profitable within the framework of a sustainable future. We need nothing short of a paradigm shift, one that inspires action at revolutionary levels and pace. We simply cannot waste any more time. The only limit is our willingness to act. And the time to act is now.
So there you go. That kind of gives you an idea, and that's Prince Charles, if you didn't notice. He along with another gentleman by the name of hold on, his name is escaping me here at the moment. Where's the guy's name? God damn it! Forget the guy's name. But
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, what they're proposing, actually, the video. So I'm looking at it from the conspiracy point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have Prince Charles, who's is steeped in any kind of conspiracy of global elite that you could probably find, right? The video doesn't really tell you much. It's
right.
It's like, we need to do this, we need to do that. Now is the time to do this. Now is the time to do that. But the Great Reset, are we talking about resetting what is the definition of capitalism?
Correct.
What is the model of modern corporate business?
Correct. It's a different way of looking at how to conduct business, and what it ultimately comes down to is what they call Klaus Schwab. He's the WEF chairman. Him and Prince Charles came up with this whole idea of the Great Reset, and that's just a tease of it. But ultimately, it is that we have to take the environment into account. We have to take the wealth inequality into account, the wealth gap into account. And we have to kind of reimagine what is most important to a corporation, right? Right now we have stockholder capitalism, and what they're proposing and what Klaus Schwab he's been a big proponent of and putting forward is what he calls stakeholder capitalism, right? And so I found a great video that breaks it down for us in a graphic form, because that's, for me, that's the best way for me to intake information, because it's hard when I'm just hearing words or hearing someone talk to me. I like it graphically put up for us. So it's a very, very quick video that I'm going to put up, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Great.
Capitalism starts with the idea that only business creates value, and second, that business creates value best when it's maximizing share prices and values for shareholders. Stakeholder capitalism starts with the idea that wealth is actually created collectively by different types of organizations, not only within business. The second point is, how do we make sure also that wealth is redistributed between all these different value creating stakeholders? And that means, to workers and improving working conditions. It means serving our communities and definitely our planet, so it is more sustainable. But it's a much stronger concept if it's linked to an idea of wealth creation itself.
So you see, so it takes into account that workers play a part in profit, the community plays a part in the profit. The banks play a part in the profit. The business plays a part in the profit, and the government plays a part in the profit. And what they're saying is they're all stakeholders in the business, rather than, so the business is just one part, but the value that the business creates all goes in to one bucket, let's say, and then gets redistributed out to all the different elements that play into what allows that business to expand and create profit and gain more profit, instead of being beholden to the shareholders and putting profits over everything, like we were talking about earlier, where it's profit over everything, maximizing profit, which leads to making decisions like sending manufacturing overseas and doing business with shady places. If you did it under this stakeholder model, which I think is intriguing, the community has a say, the government has a say, the workers have a say, the banks have a say, and the business itself has a say. And they all have to collectively decide what is best, right? And what's best for society is what is should go first. What's best for the collective should always go first in the confines of capitalism. And I thought that was interesting. And this same video, I got a video to follow it up on, is how to visualize that. And this woman that in the video that we heard talking, she wrote a book about this, and she has a great comparison that I want you to hear. And I think it'll kind of resonate a little bit more with you. Check this out.
Cool.
Think back to, the moon landing, which is what I reflect on in my book, and just this immense collective effort that happened in order for this extremely hard goal to be fulfilled, much harder than delivering today, personal protection equipment to frontline workers. It was a hard task. It actually meant truly collaborating. Going to the moon was not just aeronautics, it was also investment in materials, nutrition, electronics, the whole software industry in some ways was a spillover from that. But what it also required was a very different approach to industrial strategy. There was no list of sectors. There was a problem that had to be solved, and all these different sectors came together with government guidance to solve that problem. And I just think we need to get into that mission, moonshot kind of mindset, which is, instead of just asking for handouts and subsidies, how can we actually collaborate together to foster new solutions for big problems, which today could also be something like, getting the plastic out of the ocean. But it really does mean that in terms of the immense lobbying effort, that companies have globally, that what they are asking for is less just about a subsidy here, a guarantee there, a tax reduction there, but actually working together with different actors in a fundamentally different way and being willing to collaborate towards solving a problem. I think we would just have a very different, planet that we would be living on today.
That's great. And that thing about the plastic in the ocean, the first thing I thought of, do you know how many jobs that would probably create?
Right.
How much cool technology would come from being able to scoop all that plastic out of the ocean?
And that only can come if the focus of profits is not to maximize them at all costs. You can only do a project like that if everyone comes together and says, we're not going to worry about profits. We're going to solve the problem, right? And then businesses get created that are collectives, right? And so, Courtney, so basically Bernie's platform with a cool accent, yes and no. This is saying basically do away with Wall Street. To go to a stakeholder capitalism model, Wall Street would have to cease to exist.
So they're like cutting out the middleman, right?
Right. There's no shareholders anymore. There's no shares of stock to buy. There is no stock market in a stakeholder I don't see how it would fit. You couldn't. It doesn't make sense because there's no shareholders anymore.
Like the workers, employees, and banks and whoever helped create that entity, that company, would be the stockholders. You couldn't necessarily buy or trade.
Right. The community would have a say. So if that company, that business grew in a community, right, and they wanted to, say, move their facility to another community, the community has no say now. right? The owner of the business can move
Right.
his business wherever the fuck he wants. Imagine if we had this sort of model back when manufacturing jobs in the 70s and 80s were getting shipped overseas, 60s, 70s, 80s, where these guys that were factory workers were losing their jobs because they had no say. Their owner was just up and taking their jobs overseas. Imagine if the community and the government were both on the same side fighting against that to make sure that to hold the business accountable. Right, there's an accountability in this stakeholder capitalism, which is why I think there's something to it, because it's a checks and balances. It's not just two. It's a multifaceted. There's at least 5 different aspects that all have to come together and agree on how to move forward with the business, and that for me is where it makes sense. Now, where it's gotten bastardized is that the Great Reset has the name can very easily be bastardized, right? Because you're like, the Great Reset, it's these global elites, it's Prince Charles, and it's all these capitalists, and they want to reset society. What do you mean, right? And so it's grown where there's the conspiracy of COVID was purposely let out so that there was a catastrophic event across the planet that would allow the opening for something like this. The anti-vaxxers are in on this because they think it's a global conspiracy to have a one world government and one world healthcare and a forced healthcare and things of that nature.
Terrible.
Yeah, awful, right? And the one world government people, the people that are against the New World Order, right? And not Hogan and Paul Nash. Not that New World Order, the real New World Order. They see this and they go, they're doing it out in front of us now. It's all why it's out in the open. They're telling us they want to reset society. And it's like, but what's surprising when you take another look into it is that these capitalists and these global elites, they seem to be wanting to move to a style that actually does benefit society. They're willing, some of them at least, are willing to take profits out and make less profits in order to have society be better off. But the biggest name that kind of has made this thing go big, and according to the BBC, there's been something like 8 million Google searches for the Great Reset. And tweets on Twitter and stuff. So it's really gotten out there. And one of the biggest ones is Russell Brand, former comedian Russell Brand.
Sure. Turned yogi, spiritualist, podcaster.
Yes. And he, much like Joe Rogan, identified as a liberal for a very long time and still would probably tell you he's a liberal, but has moved gradually over and over and over to the right and to the conservatism. And he, much like Joe Rogan, has fallen for some of the bullshit of COVID. And so everything is a fucking conspiracy, right? So here's where he talks about the Great Reset. And I want to show it to you because then I want to break down, yes, Katy Perry's ex. Yes. So check this out.
Mainstream media has been reporting on the real estate market going haywire with demand, but experts on social media are digging further. Some have been speculating that the real estate bubble in 2020 and into 2021 is the start of the global elite's Great Reset agenda. Now you're interested. While many think that the Great Reset is merely a conspiracy theory, the US property market indicates the likeliness of a possible future where you will own nothing and you'll be happy. It's not really a conspiracy theory, is it? There's a video with them like sort of saying it and stuff, isn't it? Like they've got into a lot of trouble to make it look all nice. Hey, that was a conspiracy theory. What's this video? Conspiracy theory?
So there's a lot going on there. First of all, he quotes Jamie Dimon, which if you don't know who Jamie Dimon is,
Chase.
JP Morgan Chase, and then Jamie Redmond, who also wrote this book, Wall Street Giants Want to Be Your Landlord. Data shows mega banks are buying up all the U.S. real estate, which is something that we've been talking about. I have been fucking trumpeting for fucking months on here, right? And it ties that into this great reset thing. Except for what I want to point out is the wording in it, right? So he says here, the quote is, while many think the Great Reset is merely a conspiracy theory, the U.S. property market indicates the likeliness of a possible future, right? One has nothing to do with the other. And Russell Brand is just quoting this guy in his book who tied it to the Great Reset when the two things are not related in any sense. And that's where it's blown up since Russell Brand's put out this video. And it's a 14-minute long video about the housing crisis, which is a subject that's close to my heart. And he's dead on most of it. But this little 30-second blip where he ties it to the Great Reset. And of course, the title of the YouTube video is what? The Great Reset is not conspiracy. The majority of what he talks about has nothing to do with the Great Reset, but it's like a headline writer writing a shitty headline for a story and focusing on the one part that isn't really real. And so
sounds like the lightning round, which will be coming up later.
Exactly. Just a few minutes. And so it just goes to show you how a misunderstanding and misinformation by someone with a very large platform. And just so we're clear, that video that I just played for you, that 14-minute video was posted on January 30th of this year. So just not even 2 full months. It's had 2 million views. So it's important when we talk about misinformation being put out by these guys with huge platforms. The guy, he has no idea that the Great Reset in actuality has nothing to do with the housing crisis. And in fact, is capitalists that you're demonizing, rightfully demonizing. This is something that's created by capitalists. At its core. The World Economic Forum, again, is the biggest capitalists in the world. They get together every fucking year to discuss. Now, people that don't like this idea of stakeholder capitalism, they believe that this would actually provide more power to these businesses, and that businesses, because in this model, businesses would have more of a say in government too, right? Because government we're all together in this thing, right? We all have a say in everything that goes on, and so people that are not early. Oh yes, thank you, Biz. Sorry to miss you.
Biz.
Yeah, but yeah. So there's something to be said for that, because corporations and capitalists can't be trusted as far as you can throw them, right? And if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. And so while it sounds like a great idea, to kind of put a bow on this, I went down the rabbit hole, and this sounds like a great idea, but it's never going to happen because it's impossible to go back and try to institute something like this. The toothpaste is way too far out of the tube. Wall Street is way too integral in our financial system. To try to say, let's just stop doing that tomorrow. Imagine if they close the stock market. All right, everybody, cash out your stocks.
Everybody's getting a check.
Everybody get your money back, and we're just going to start over again. It's impossible. It could never happen. It's like trying to institute true socialism in anywhere that capitalism already exists. They just don't mesh. You'd have to start from scratch in a society. You'd have to build a town, basically, that was socialist and build it out from there to a country. And we're at a place now on this planet where that's not possible. Capitalism has put its clutches and its talons so deep in the way we interact globally that you can't change it. There is no change. You have to work inside it, and you have to find a way to do it while also keeping Wall Street going. And there's really no way to have an equitable fair way, a fair economy, if Wall Street is involved. It's impossible. They're diametrically opposed to each other. They're all about profits. Maximize those profits. Make that share price go up at all costs, by any means necessary. The decisions that are made in those boardrooms by the board members, when they sit around, they go, all right, guys, what's this in the best interest of? The workers or the profits? They are always going to choose the profits. Why? Because the profits are tied to their pay. Right? They get paid on how much profit is and how the stock, how well the stock goes up, right? That's why fucking Elon Musk is as rich as he is, and that why Jeff Bezos is as wealthy as he is, because he paid himself in stock, and stock goes as he makes decisions that make the stock go up, which puts money in his pocket. This stakeholder way would completely blow up Jeff Bezos's business. His whole wealth would be turned upside down.
You'd have to pay those Uyghurs that he's having the work to death over in China.
So
this is fascinating.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to go down this rabbit hole with everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and it's not going to be an every week thing. It's just when I'm inspired to take you guys down the rabbit hole with me, I want to do that. So, without further ado, you all came for one reason, right?
There's a charge in the air, and whoa, ladies and gentlemen, you know what that means. It's time for the lightning round. It's the lightning round. Where welcome to the Thunderdome. 3 stories enter, 1 gets read, and you, the fine thunderheads in the world's most dangerous chat room, get to choose what story gets read. Again, one more time, happy birthday, Ryan Hansen. Cheers, Stolak. In my mother's native tongue of Polish. Means may you live 100 years. Headline number 1. Beef bandit steals $15,000 worth of meat from a steakhouse after interviewing for a job.
That's my kind of guy right there. Fuck the man.
Headline number 2. North Carolina woman fights to keep her fart license plate.
Yes. Good for her. I like that.
And headline number 3. Box of human heads intended for medical research is stolen in Denver.
What? Oh.
So we'll let that kind of coalesce in your nodules up there as I read this one more time. Let your votes be known out there in the chat room. As we don't dilly-dally, we're going to go back over the headlines. Number 1. Beef bandit steals $15,000 worth of meat from a steakhouse after interviewing for a job. Headline number 2. North Carolina woman fights to keep her fart license plate. And headline number 3. Box of human heads intended for medical research is stolen in Denver.
The human head weighs 8 pounds.
Approximately.
That's funny. So there's a box full of them. So that was a heavy ass box that someone stole.
Don't lose your head.
Yeah.
Calm down.
And I agree with Aunt Chris. There's no way. How this is a no contest. We have to hear about the box of stolen heads.
Well, this is a democracy. So, and Mon Jordan has already cast a vote. I think Aunt Chris has got her vote in there too, and Billy Wack, the great Billy Wack's got a vote in for number 3. So that's 3 for 3, as they say.
We are eagerly anticipating. Ooh, Courtney goes to number 2.
We're going number 2. We got to vote for number 2.
Eagerly
What's in the box?
Ryan Hansen's headlines to the headlines. I'm sure he's working feverishly.
Yeah, seriously. It's close to his birthday. I take the whole month of May to celebrate my birthday. So maybe the guy just like, you know what? Maybe
we're pretty too. Oh, wait, here we go.
Here,
Mr. Beefy Carnivore Diet, fart plate, and what's in the box.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you, Ryan Hansen, the contributor and birthday boy. So happy birthday again, Mr. Hansen. One more time, kind of let people kind of make their votes here. Beef bandit steals $15,000 worth of meat from a steakhouse after interviewing for a job. North Carolina woman fights to keep her fart license plate, and a box of human heads intended for medical research is stolen in Denver. Yeah,
It does remind me of the movie Seven,
for sure.
which is one of the greatest movies on the first watch. If you don't know what happens, right, and you're just going into a blind, the first time you watch that movie, it's one of the best movies. Obviously, on a second watch, once you know what happens, it's probably a much less viewing experience. But for me, that is one of the movies that sticks out to me where it's like the first time I watched it, you were just like, holy fuck, no way it turned that way. Like it was impressive.
Funny you say that because I felt the same way with The Usual Suspects, and it involves the same actor basically, and like the usual at the end of that when you find out like who's Kaiser Soze really is, you're like, no, you're like, you got duped the entire movie.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
All right, let's hear about Heads in the Box.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is from Denver, CBSLocal.com. A box of human heads intended for medical research has been stolen. Denver police are trying to find out who stole them and why. Good job, guys. It happened in Denver's Central Park neighborhood on Thursday morning. The medical van transporting the heads was parked near 23rd and Syracuse Avenue approximately 11 a.m. Police say someone broke into the truck and stole a dolly and the blue and white box, which had the label exempt human specimen on it. Now, the police have said, this is a quote from the story, if someone finds that box thrown away somewhere, they should call us.
Yes, that would be good. Yes, please call them about the box.
Imagine like thinking like, I don't know how, it's probably some refrigerated truck, right? So it kind of looks maybe like an armored truck, maybe it's like a little bit different than just, and you think you're making off with, I don't know, whatever, let's just say sapphires, a box of sapphires. Like,
right.
You thought you're gonna get Christmas, go on vacation. You open it up, and there's just a bunch of severed heads in it.
Oh,
there's dead eyes looking up at you, like,
dude.
The smell.
Do they box them like face up or face down? Right.
Oh,
it would
right.
be weird to do it face up, and you'd think that they would put them in the box face down.
Or did they settle during shipping?
Right. Yeah, that is fucking crazy. And like, yeah, that has to be it. Like they had to have thought they were stealing something else, and then found out that they were stealing severed heads.
Yes, Reanimator. Yes, it's exactly along those lines, Courtney. We're talking Reanimator, Frankenstein at its best here, right? What do you do with a box of heads?
Yeah, that's incredible.
Box of heads. I guess that's a good way as any to end the show.
Yeah.
Talking about a stolen box of human heads. It happened, and then we cover that stuff here on the program.
The follow-up story is, what the fuck were the plans that they were going to do with those heads?
Remember, police say if you find a box thrown away somewhere, that you should call them.
Yes.
Like there's somebody else to call.
And then what are they going to do with the heads? They're surely spoiled by now.
Oh, yeah, they're rotting somewhere. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is Topic Thunder 65 by our best count, and the weird calendar that makes no sense to anybody, even us. Thanks to Ben. Thank you for that segment. I need to learn a little bit more about the Great Reset, so that's very intriguing that the capitalists kind of want to reset the way things are, because that kind of goes against the grain of what you think they'd want, right? So again, thanks to everybody who participated. Maud Jordan, we see you. Billy Wack, everybody who was in the world's most dangerous chat room. Thanks to Biz for all the help and the music, and thanks to you for listening. This has been Topic Thunder on the SS Rapapa.